See, review of literature is the second step in research. First was problem identification, and then we identified literature reviews. Literature reviews talk about past studies, people who have studied in the past on the similar lines. So review of literature, it is one of the most important steps in research processes. It talks about what is already known about a particular phenomenon. And the main purpose is to convey to the readers about what is the work done, what knowledge have they shared, what ideas have they shared, and what has been established from that research topic. And it is a very laborious task, and it is actually very, very essential if your research has to be a success. Now, I've given you a definition of review of literature. H.M. Cooper in 1988 has defined review of literature as a literature review uses as its database reports of primary or original scholarship and does not report any primary scholarship itself. The primary reports used in literature may be verbal, but in vast majority of cases, reports are written documents. These types of scholarships may be empirical, theoretical, critical, analytical, methodological in nature. Second, a literature review seeks to describe, summarize, evaluate, clarify, integrate the content of primary reports. See, as mentioned to you earlier, the definition also supports what we discussed earlier. It says that it is basically somebody else's report that we are discussing in brief. As to, it is verbal in nature. Verbal in the sense when we use written way or oral way, when we communicate using words, we call it as verbal communication. Any reported research in similar areas is going to be helping us to understand a literature, some past studies, which could be of empirical. I told you about different research types of research, different types of research we had earlier discussed. When we go to that, we will find what is an empirical research, what is a theoretical research, it could be an analytical research, it could be a critical research. And then it helps you, as I told you, a summary to evaluate, clarify, or integrate some of the contents of primary report. Somebody has already studied in certain areas of your areas of interest. You're going to read through it and then frame it. Like for example, if I talk about women education, there are scholars who have already studied on women education. So when scholars have studied on women education, I'm going to read through whatever areas that they have studied. They could be empirical, and they could be even analytical, like they quantify the data and then analyze it, etc. Collect data, quantify every fact, analyze it, etc. Right? So these studies, when you go through, read through all the research that they have done, like earlier, women going out was a taboo. Slowly, they started pursuing school education, and then they started entering into higher educations. Today, if you see higher education field, majority in most of the classes, I have seen girls are in majority than boys, right? These are some of my empirical findings. People have reported their research and this has been published, right? So when you take out published sources or when you take out reports of research already conducted, you can find out what they have studied on, what areas they have covered, what methodology they use, what was the type of research, and then you can see what tools did they use to analyze. Was it uh, a quantitative study or a qualitative study? And then you're going to say what conclusion have they drawn with the objective. And is there any area that is left for studying in the same area? Like for example, they would have studied in rural areas. You can apply and try studying it in urban area, right? That is a research gap, we call it as. You fill the research gap. Have their objectives been fulfilled? If not, where have they fallen short? Or you can even criticize the existing research with your own evidence. This is what is a literature review serving you for. What is the importance of having a literature review? Past studies को हमें क्यों जानना है? एक research करते वक्त why should we see past studies? You will have to. Okay. Review of literature is important so that you identify a research problem. Like for example, when I spoke about women education, people say they have spoken till 1980. Women were not exposed much to higher education. So that gives you an insight. After 1980, what has happened? You can try and research. So you can identify a research problem or you can develop a research problem. You say you're going to refine after 1980 what has happened. Now you can see till date, if you see women enrollment in higher education is increasing. So you can specify the question. What is the case in rural areas? What is the case in urban areas in India? Like, or you can apply it to countries like Bangladesh. Is it the same for other countries also? Let me find out, etc. And then an orientation to what is known and not known. See, you knew the and you knew what was happening in 1960. Now you are trying to see 1960 was it true? 1980 was the case same. 1990, if you see a spurt in women education or women enrolling into higher education, still 2000, if you see women have increasingly enrolled. What after 2000, right? So you are trying to ascertain what research can contribute, what best your research can contribute. And you will see if there is any gap. Rural area has been studied. Can I try it with urban area? Can the study be applied to urban area or a particular city? What has been happening in Mumbai, right? No one has studied. Maybe you will try and find out a research gap is there and you will try to fill that in. And you are going to discover unanswered questions about those subjects or concepts or problems. What are the areas? Women are taking up more, women are enrolling more into engineering, medical, etc. What about arts field? What about commerce field? Right? All these are unanswered questions where you can fill in. Now, determination of a need to replicate, like for example, earlier somebody must have studied, right? So now you will try to study it with the same sample, the same or different sample. Say for example, women have shown an increasing trend in enrolling for higher education. What is the case with men? Are they trying to go in for some other field? If women enrollment in medical field has increased, are they trying to go in for art, science, and commerce field? Say for this is how review of literature helps you. Apart from that, you will also identify relevant theoretical or conceptual framework for your research problem. Already studied theories can be applied, like education gives empowerment. It's a theoretical base that we have formed. Is it really giving them an empowerment, right? That you can test. And you can identify and develop some new refined clinical interventions to test empirical research. Empirical research already proven through data collection, etc. Whatever you're doing, if you see people are circulating questionnaires through Google form, they're trying to collect data, right? Analyze the fact and give you a finding. That is what is called as an empirical research, which we have studied in detail when we learned types of research. So you are able to identify and develop some new types of findings, like for example, even disabled women. they are also able to enroll. Earlier, they were not able to enroll because they never had special schools, etc. Now we have come out with special schools, etc. So they are also able to enroll into higher education. And then you can see the strength and weaknesses of particular design methods of instruments used in earlier work. Like for example, they would have used correlation theory. You can say this is not sufficient. With the increasing women population, their enrollment is also increasing. The increasing number of schools, women enrollment in higher education is increasing. Transportation increasing, women enrollment is increasing. But this alone, correlation alone is not enough. Maybe I can think of some other analysis tool, analytical tool, right? And the another this thing importance is it helps you in development of hypothesis. Hypothesis, which we will discuss in the later chapters as to what is hypothesis, how do you frame, why is it important, etc. Hypothesis as of now we will assume as tentative statement that the researcher wants to prove or disprove. I say that with the increase in public transportation system, people are enrolling into higher education system, especially women. So I am trying to prove this fact or disprove this fact with the help of data that is going to be collected and then presented, analyzed and interpreted and concluded. So this literature review helps me in framing a hypothesis. What should I actually study? What should I actually focus on? This can be done when I read through the past research. So we saw what is the meaning of literature review. We had a definition of Cooper, which was given in 1988. And then we saw how important was reviewing literature is. And now we'll see the purpose of literature review. It is to convey to the reader previous knowledge facts that have been established on a specific topic, the strength of the knowledge conveyed, the weakness of the knowledge conveyed. Like we were talking about women enrollment in higher education, right? Earlier, what was studied? Is it holding good now? Is the Is there any weaknesses? Have they left any area unidentified? Like rural areas have not been studied. The study has been focused, all previous studies have been focused only towards urban area. Then I will start with the researching on urban areas. Now, literature review also allows the readers to be updated with state of research in any field, and if there is any contradiction to the findings, they can be challenged with other research studies. Like for example, if there is any contradiction, like women enrollment is increasing, I say that, but I find that the study says women enrollment is increasing, but I did not find this happening in the last 5 years. So I can challenge that. Why is it happening? And then it is helping me to develop investigative tools and improve research methodologies. Like for example, like I have chosen the tool of correlation. I may even try to see what is the dependent variable, what is the independent variable, so that my study, why is the enrollment going low? Like I said, earlier studies say I am contradicting. Now, what's the factor that is contradicting? It is that in the last 5 years, enrollment level has been low. Why is it low? Is it because of the security? I'm trying to find out. Women enrollment depends upon security and safety while commuting. That has to be ensured. So this is a dependent variable, women enrollment, and independent variable was security. Other women feel secure to travel, then obviously enrollment will go on increasing in the same trend. But since security is a challenge, I'm not able to get out of the house after 5 o'clock in the evening. In case I have extra classes, I'm not able to pursue those extra classes or attend them. And therefore, I will say there is no point in enrolling for a course when I'm not able to do it fully, right? Now it also provides knowledge about the problem that is faced by previous researchers while entering into the study. Like for example, previous researchers did not have analytical tools, or they were not able to collect data from a particular class of people, particular area where they wanted to study. That can also be highlighted. Now, apart from that, you can place each in the context of contribution. Each study has contributed in understanding the subject under review. A particular topic you're trying to review, every specific aspect has contributed, it's made its own contribution, has contributed on its own, at its own levels, right? And each relationship, like I told you, security, safety plays a major role when they are enrolling in higher education. You need to identify new ways to interpret them, throw light, any research gaps. Like I told you, rural area was not studied. Studies have been focused towards urban areas. So I will throw light and show that urban areas also need to be studied. Maybe that is the research gap I identified, and I will focus on them. And any kind of conflict that has to be resolved. Like for example, previous studies say it has been increasing, and in the coming years, say by 2043, entire women folk in India will be educated. At least they'll finish their graduation. But I see off late the trend has been falling. So it has been contradictory. So I will see what can be done to resolve this conflict. Again, any areas I will identify so that the same research is not repeated. Same Mumbai city, same Thane district, I try studying which previous researcher has studied, same study, same finding I report, does not hold good, right? So I need to see put in some effort so that the study is not duplicated in any aspect. I will also develop a general explanation for observed variation in the behavior of a phenomenon. Like for example, any kind of women enrollment is falling in a particular area. Why is it falling? It is because there has been a potential threat to safety and security in public transportation system. That is a general explanation that I have derived from my finding. Now I have to identify the potential relationship between two concepts to identify a researchable hypothesis. Just as I told you, relationship between women's safety and their enrollment for higher education when they have to physically commute, right? Like for example, I mean taking the current context, if you don't have connectivity in the rural area, it might prove to be a this thing hindrance for you to pursue your studies. So, current students may not enroll. Is that a cause for the fall in enrollment for higher education? I will try to analyze that. I will identify researchable hypothesis. Connectivity determines enrollment in higher education. I'm talking about hypothesis in a layman's term. I tell you, a simple term में बोला गया तो hypothesis is a tentative statement. I say that as you believe. Connectivity is very important for me to pursue my education. Now, further education or further studies. This is again a researchable hypothesis, which is a tentative statement which I want to prove or disprove. Now learn how others have defined, measure and measured key concepts. Say like women enrollment and safety. What have the others got in mind? It has nothing to do with safety. Students can reach home by 5 o'clock soon after colleges are over. Then others have measured this, or others may measure safety in a different way. Like I prefer traveling by crowded buses, so I feel it is safe. Others feel As long as you don't have any potential threat in terms of safety, I can board any bus, right? But then I don't get buses, it doesn't matter. I can take rickshaw, whatever. They have measured safety in a different term. They have measured commuting in a different term. I am measuring something else. I can measure it in a different way. So I will stop here, continue in the next meeting.